Welcome to the USHCC Tuesday morning general session, Champions of Change, the Latina GDP in Action. At this time, give a warm round of applause to the USHCC Educational Fund Chairwoman, Ms. Monika Mantilla.
I want to begin, my town is Miami and my state is Florida, and I just want to say our hearts go out to the people of Florida as we prepare for the impact of Hurricane Milton, and the USHCC family is here to support you and keep you in our thoughts. So let's all say a prayer today for what's happening in Florida, but we're here, we're strong, we're resilient. And good morning to everyone. Thank you for waking up early. Buenos dias, USHCC familia. Bienvenidos. Welcome to day 3 of USHCC's 45th anniversary conference in Kansas City. And thank you for joining our morning session today. My name is Monika Mantilla. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Altura Capital. I'm also honored to be the chair of the USHCC Educational Fund. I wake up every morning and I feel deeply grateful for the work we get to do every day to help entrepreneurs succeed by providing them with the patient capital and the strategic resources, including helping them to open doors and develop preferred partnerships with leading corporations across America. You could also say that we're a private equity and private credit investment firm that invests with a heart. And today we have 12 companies in our portfolio across the United States in the sectors of consumer products, business services, manufacturing, and healthcare. They generate 1,857 quality jobs. And I must share that one of our recent and probably most appealing sectors is investing in women professional sports. We are creating, it is very, very exciting. We are creating a coalition of amazing women and men and corporate supporters to bring a women's soccer team to Miami, the first professional women's sports team in Miami. So we're very excited about it. And our goal and vision is to connect the world of soccer in Latin America with the amazing movement of women's world soccer champions in the US. And I must stop for a moment to say that Bank of America has been our banker and our advisor, and I want to really thank them for their support. Just yesterday, I was inspired to visit Kansas City and the first women's stadium in the country, Casey Current, just an amazing team built by the amazing Angie and Chris Long, an incredibly inspiring couple. So if you haven't been to a women's soccer game in your city, go to NWSL website and find your team and buy tickets and go to the next game. Women's sports will only be transformed and elevated when we show up to the games, both physically and online. So if you also are a champion of women's sports, let's connect. And we have 100 years of being behind to catch up with. So there's lots of work to do. So our purpose at Altura is to transform and improve societies through enabling entrepreneurial success. We specialize in the small and lower middle markets with an emphasis on investments in low and moderate income communities and those businesses with diverse ownership and those that create high quality jobs. We're always looking for scalable entrepreneurs to finance them and support their growth and to collaborate with the corporations that want to benefit from their products and services. I often reflect about what is needed to continue to accelerate the Latino GDP and make it double digit. You know what it takes? Each one of us in this room, connecting a Hispanic business to a valuable resource. Resources like the programs USHCC has to offer, of any of our business partners and sister organizations like LBAN or the Hispanic Heritage Foundation, both of which I proudly serve on the board, or a local chamber, or NMSDC, a wonderful certifying entity that connects corporations and minority companies, all of who can open doors and connect you with the corporations and valuable resources for growth. If we accelerate the pace in which we do business with each other and connect each other to valuable resources, we can achieve that goal. So if you're an entrepreneur, my invitation to you is think big. Think about acquisitions. Think about doubling or tripling the size of your business. Being an entrepreneur can be a lonely endeavor. And it's important for our entrepreneurs to be aware that there are incredible resources out there, like the ones we provide and many organizations provide, to help them grow, to help them succeed. If you're a corporate leader, become a champion. If you're not, and if you are, continue to be one. Help Latino businesses get business, make an introduction, share information, be an advocate. The next generation of supplier diversity leaders should be business enablers, innovators, and connectors that reinvent how diverse businesses can accelerate their pace of growth. That not only develops businesses, it develops meaningful connections, which is what every research demonstrates to be the source of happiness and fulfillment. As I mentioned, I have the great honor of serving as USHCC chair of the Educational Funds Board and to share in that mission. For those new to the USHCC familia, the Educational Fund is USHCC's nonprofit and foundation that powers our collective mission to fuel our country's economic growth with impact-driven programs, initiatives, and resources to accelerate the growth and success of our Hispanic business ecosystem. Because a thriving Hispanic business ecosystem is a thriving American economy. If we can bridge the opportunity gaps facing many Hispanic businesses, we can see a future where quoting a Latino GDP in the double digits is not only possible, but likely. This can happen when we are intentional and we come together as a community and in partnership with our champions and stakeholder allies, which is why we are grateful to you, all USHCC partners that include our Hispanic chambers, who serve as key partners to delivering a shared mission through USHCC's programs such as Avanzar and Elevate Together with Office Depot across the country, in collaboration with HBEs such as Blue Wave, who serve as our technical assistance providers for our supplier development program. We are deeply grateful to our program investing partners, including Anheuser-Busch Foundation, Kroger Foundation, Toyota, JP Morgan, Google, Wells Fargo, PNC, Office Depot, the Minority Business Development Agency, and of course, this year's co-chair of the National Conference, Bank of America. An applause to all of them. And I'm grateful that Bank of America has helped us to launch in her footsteps an initiative focused on elevating Latina leadership stories in our own words that started as a podcast at past events and today is now a digital series that is currently featuring 10 Latina leaders across the country. To meet these in her footsteps leaders, please stop by the Educational Funds Lounge at the Expo Hall where we are playing the series. We also have a few of them in attendance, including Stephanie Parra, Olga Perez, and Stephanie Vasquez. Today, you will have an opportunity to hear from Stephanie Parra directly at our next fireside chat. Congratulations to our Cohort 3 supplier graduates. Thanks to our partners with Blue Wave, we are graduating over 20 small businesses and Hispanic business enterprises with our USHCC Avanzando Suppliers Program. Let's give them a round of applause. And we are now launching our 4th cohort, made possible by the investments from JP Morgan Chase, who understood from the beginning the vision of this initiative, transforming our suppliers' trajectory with a very practical, targeted program that addresses key gaps and aligns each participant to fully understand what it takes to become internationally competitive in just 3 or 4 months. If you know of a certified supplier in our community, in your community, please ask them to apply for Cohort 4. Also, at the Gala Awards, you will hear from Ruben Barrales of Wells Fargo, who will announce the award winners of this year's USHCC Chamber Community Grants powered by Wells Fargo. A special thanks to Ruben for his advocacy on USHCC's mission. Thank you, Ruben. We will have a 20-minute meal break and then our amazing general session, Champions of Change, the Latina GDP in Action, will commence, where you will hear about the Latina GDP report, joined by the researchers of the report, followed by a fireside chat and discussions on why we must support our Latina entrepreneurs and leaders. I'm grateful to serve on the Educational Fund Board alongside our great leaders, and because we are highlighting the Latina GDP, I would like to highlight the USHCC Educational Fund Board Latina leaders, my dear colleagues who are championing great change in our community, such as Alice Rodriguez, Rosa Santana, Betty Maneta, Jackie Puente, Jamel Sanchez Ocaña, and Kathleen Martinez, who truly fuel my commitment to support what is possible in championing prosperity for our Hispanic businesses. Thank you, Ramiro, Evelyn, and the USHCC team for the great work being done at USHCC. Together, we can make the impossible possible. And USHCC familia, enjoy your meal. Thank you for waking up early, and enjoy the Champions of Change session that is about to come. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to you, Ms. Mantilla. Breakfast will now be served. Enjoy your desayuno prepared by the talented and hardworking banquets team. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Esteemed guests, we hope you've been enjoying your delicious meal. To kick off the next part of our program, we ask that you please direct your attention to the screens for a brief video from our corporate chair sponsor at Bank of America.
We are the proud founders and sisters of Chica Beauty. Chica Beauty is a cosmetic lifestyle brand, and we are inspired by women on the go. Bank of America has been with us from the beginning, from our small business journey. They believe in us, and they knew what we were trying to do and make a difference. We want all of the young Latina entrepreneurs to go out there. You have a dream, you have a passion, like, go for it, do it. Get it, Chica!
Here representing our corporate chair to introduce our co-keynote address from Bank of America, their Senior Vice President and Business Banking Market Executive for the Los Angeles Metro Market, Mr. Ray Vasquez.
Buenos dias. It's such a pleasure and privilege to speak with you all today. As a 30-year veteran of the banking industry, currently serving as the Business Banking Market Executive for Los Angeles Metro Market, I have a deep respect and admiration for our Hispanic-Latino business owners. The truth is, that admiration goes back to well before my career. You could say I was born with it. I am the son of 2 Hispanic business owners. My mother owned a quick-service restaurant in East LA, and my father owned a construction company, which he then passed on to my brother. Today, I'm proud to help support Hispanic Latino business owners in my role at Bank of America, where we serve approximately 14.2 million Hispanic Latino clients, of which 1.2 million are business owners. And in fact, today, nearly 1 in 3 checking accounts open with us today are by Hispanic Latino customers. My career at the bank has also given me the opportunity to serve as executive sponsor of the Bank of America Foundation grant for Latino GDP research for the past 4 years. As part of that grant, we support the incredible research Latino GDP regularly conducts to provide meaningful data on the large and rapidly growing economic contributions of Latinos living in the United States. Most recently, Latino GDP published a new report focused on the tremendous contributions of Latinas to our economy. The inaugural U.S. Latina GDP report found that Latinas contributed $1.3 trillion in GDP to the American economy in 2021 alone. That makes Latinas a larger contributor to the U.S. GDP than the entire state of Florida. And what's more, the report found that U.S. Latina GDP grew at a rate of 2.7 times that of the GDP of non-Hispanics between 2010 and 2021. So I think it's safe to say we're just getting started when it comes to Latinas driving our economy. The data is so important not only because it codifies and confirms the massive impact Latina business owners have on our economy, but also because it tells people like me and my colleagues at Bank of America that we need to continue investing more and more time, effort, and resources to support Hispanic-Latino businesses. That's why I'm so excited to be here with all of you and why I'm thrilled to be able to introduce the next two speakers. Dr. Matthew Fienup is the Executive Director for the Center for Economic Research and Forecasting at California Lutheran University and the Project Director for the Latino GDP Project. Along with Dr. David Hayes-Bautista, a distinguished professor of medicine and director of the Center for the Study of Latino Health and Culture at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. I first met Dr. Hayes-Bautista more than 30 years ago when I was in college, and I cannot express what an honor it is to be able to introduce him here today and to have him bring his expertise to this critical research. And now, let's all please welcome Dr. Fienup and Dr. Hayes-Bautista. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a tremendous privilege to be here and to share the unique insights of the Latino GDP report. We're here to talk about GDP. What is GDP? Why GDP? Those of you who aren't familiar with the Latino GDP research, research initiated by my colleague Dr. Hayes-Bautista nearly 20 years ago. The reason we're focusing on GDP is because GDP is a nearly universal summary statistic for the economic performance of a geographic region. This is how we compare the size of economies. And more importantly, GDP growth, economic growth, is how we compare the vitality and the health of various economies. And so it's a nearly universal summary statistic. It's the natural way to try and provide a factual view of the economic contribution of Latinas living in the United States. Now, why do we care about GDP? We care about GDP because GDP growth, or economic growth, produces things that we all care very much about for our society. Increasing GDP produces things like rising standards of living, more rapidly increasing wages, greater socioeconomic mobility, the ability for someone to be born at any socioeconomic station in life, and hope over a lifetime and between generations to climb that economic ladder. So that's why we care about GDP. In fact, if we can understand the drivers of GDP growth, that equips us to make the investments that will produce even greater growth, which will produce even greater prosperity, even more rapidly rising standards of living, greater social mobility for all people. So, what do 7 years of research, 29 different reports on the Latino GDP reveal about the economic contributions of Hispanic males and females in the United States? Well, this body of research that I've been engaged in with Dr. Hayes-Bautista all these years document not just a factual view of the large and rapidly growing contribution of Latinos, but they document significant economic growth premiums. What do I mean by premiums? Well, I mean things like this. In the United States, the labor force, the Hispanic labor force, is growing more than 9 times faster than the labor force of non-Hispanics. Educational attainment, the rate at which male and female Hispanics are earning a bachelor's degree, is growing 3 times faster than that of non-Hispanics. The labor force participation rate is 6 percentage points higher for Latinos than non-Latinos. These are just examples. No matter what variables we look at, across almost every economic variable, we see these premiums on the part of Latinos living in the United States. Very dramatically, since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the US Latino GDP, we now know, is the single fastest growing GDP in the world among all major economies, surpassing China. Since 2010, the Latino GDP has been the 3rd fastest growing. Since the start of the pandemic, it's the single fastest growing GDP in the world. Right? This is what we mean by economic premiums. Now, we're here today to talk specifically, to give much deserved attention to the economic contribution of Latinas. So what does GDP reveal about the economic contribution of Latinas living in the United States? Well, what's amazing is I've already documented some of these economic premiums of various kinds. And it almost doesn't matter which one we look at. Across all of these economic measures, the economic growth premiums enjoyed by Hispanic females in the United States are even larger than the already impressive premiums enjoyed by all Hispanics. And so let's jump into that, all right? So as Ray already mentioned, the 2021 US Latina GDP is $1.3 trillion, right? Larger than the entire economy of the state of Florida. The economic contribution of Latinas living in the United States is larger than the entire economic output of 47 states, right? Only the GDP of New York, Texas, and California is bigger. Right? And the US Latino GDP is very, very rapidly growing. As Ray mentioned, 2.7 times faster than the GDP of all non-Hispanics. Interestingly, the Latina GDP is actually growing about 20% faster than the impressive growth of the overall Latino GDP. Now, at its core, what this story is really about is about rapid human capital accumulation. It's about Latinas investing in themselves, educating themselves, developing skills and work tenure, all right? And in doing so, in investing in themselves, increasing their productivity and producing GDP growth that benefits all Americans. So from 2010 to 2021, Latino educational attainment grew 2.7 times faster than the educational attainment of non-Hispanic females in the United States. Now, what's interesting, David and I are both professors on college campuses in the United States. And across the United States, about 60% of the undergraduate population is currently female. So that's to say, educational attainment is very rapidly growing for females broadly, and yet we still see this extraordinary premium on the part of Latinas living in the United States. So they're rapidly accumulating human capital. One of the other ways we see this is in workforce participation, right? Accumulation of work experience and work tenure. And interestingly, in 2010, Latinas were equally likely to be actively working as their non-Hispanic female counterparts. The Latina labor force participation was the same as that of non-Hispanic females, right? It has grown steadily, and that premium has grown to 2.5 percentage points, which currently sits at an all-time high. And so you put this together, rapid accumulation of human capital. It follows that we see very rapid gains in income. And interestingly, while real income gains have been strong for Hispanic males and females, right, we actually see that it's even more rapid for Latinas than non-Hispanic males. And in fact, since 2010, real income on the part of Latinas has grown 2.5 times that of non-Hispanic females. Real wage and salary income since 2010 has increased 46% for US Latinas compared to only 18.5% for non-Hispanic females. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is sort of a note about the COVID-19 pandemic. Right? We understand that the COVID-19 pandemic just put tremendous pressure on Latino communities in the United States. Latinos were more likely to catch the disease, more likely to die from the disease. In fact, it became the #1 cause of death among Latinos during 2020, while it was only the 3rd most common among non-Latinos. And yet what we see here is when the country needed it most, right, when the country was most in need, Latinas pressed through the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Latina GDP since 2019, the start of the pandemic, has grown 5 times the growth of non-Hispanic GDP, right? So that growth premium went from 2.7 to 5 times, right? And in fact, the Latina GDP has been growing about 30% faster than that of Hispanic males since COVID-19. And so that's to say, as with the Latino GDP research that I've been a part of for 7 years, Latinos are not only drivers of growth, a tremendous source of resilience, Latinas are drivers of economic vitality, right, that benefits all Americans. And with that, I'm going to pass now the microphone to my colleague, Dr. Hayes-Bautista, to take a deeper dive.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. I'd just like to bring to everybody's attention that what we're documenting in the Latina GDP has a long history, going back almost 500 years. Back when 2/3 of the United States used to be part of the Viceroyalty of New Spain, and you had commerce, you had trade, you had ships sailing from Europe, from Asia, but you also had something really important for the Latina GDP today, which was the Iberian legal tradition that a married woman could own property independently of her husband. She could make purchases independently of her husband. She could do whatever she wanted in business, and she didn't have to ask her husband's permission. This is different from British common law, under which when a woman married, her legal standing was erased because the husband was going to make all the decisions for both of them. And under British common law, a married woman could not make a purchase, couldn't sign a document, couldn't make out a will, couldn't start a business without her husband taking over. Because of this, Latinas actually got a head start in the North American continent in setting up businesses. So we had a Latina who began the hospitality industry in Florida. Now, how important is that for the state of Florida? Francisca de Vera, who opened the first hotel with dining facilities and laundry, and that just kept going. Latinas owned not only hotels, they owned ranches, herds, mines. Here we have an announcement by Eva Roybal in New Mexico. She owned this sheep ranch, and she's warning people, don't be changing the brand on my sheep. Oh, her husband had a ranch too. He had the next ranch, but he had to take out his own warning about changing the brands. And given that we're here in Kansas City, a lot of this Latino entrepreneurship in farming, agriculture, etc., started with the trail herds up to Kansas City, to the railheads from Texas and New Mexico. You heard of the Chisholm Trail? Well, John Chisholm actually hired vaqueros from South Texas. All the vaqueros spoke Spanish. He didn't start hiring English-speaking cowboys till the 1860s. And here in Kansas City, you had a thriving Latino community, business community, including Latino Spanish language newspapers. Now, I just want to move this quickly ahead. What's happening? This is a cross-section by age group of the Latina population in the United States. Each column represents a 5-year age group, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, etc. The dark portion of each column are the first-generation immigrants. The mid-range are the second-generation children of immigrants, and then the lightest blue are the third and fourth and higher generation grandchildren, etc., of immigrants. So what we notice is if you look at the older generations, they're predominantly immigrant, but the younger generations are increasingly U.S. born. In fact, when you get to age 15 and younger, they're 95% U.S. born. This is important because this is what's going to be driving growth for the next 30 years. As the older Latinas age out of the workforce, they are replaced by their daughters. And the factor is, for every Latina that ages out of the workforce, 2 of her daughters, so to speak, step into the shoes. That's 2 for 1. And that's a great bargain. 1 retires, 2 come into the labor force, whereas in the non-Hispanic white labor force, for every non-Hispanic white woman that ages out of the labor force, about 9/10 of a daughter steps into her shoes. That's why that labor force is declining. But not only do we have more young Latinas entering the labor force, compared to their immigrant parents, they're far more highly educated. As we look at high school graduation, bar on the far left, almost 92% of Latinas in the U.S. graduate from high school. I know you may hear, oh, half of Latinas drop out. That is like so 1970s. No longer true. 92% graduate from high school compared to about 2/3 of their parents. Almost 55% go on to college compared to about 1/3 for their parents. So in one generation, there's been a huge increase in human capital, in educational attainment. Add to that, they're born in the US, they're US citizens, they don't have to deal with naturalization. They're functionally bilingual thanks to a very large Spanish-speaking media shell, and they're 2 for 1. So here is the most important graph on my part of this. This graph represents Latina labor force participation from the year 2000 to 2021. Because you had this 2 for 1 replacement of younger US-born Latinas, highly educated, replacing their moms, you notice how the dark blue line at the bottom started at less than non-Hispanic white. By 2010, had caught up and is moving ahead in terms of increased labor force participation, while the non-Latina women are basically static. There's no growth there. So this is the future. Latinas getting highly educated, replacing their immigrant moms with the capacity to take the US economy way off into the future. And with that, we're going to begin now our fireside chat, and I'd like to call to the stage. Thank you. I'd like to call to the stage Karen Chopra. She is the Managing Director and Head of Hispanic Business Strategy for Bank of America, and Stephanie Parra, who is Vice President and General Manager of All-In Education. Stephanie, please have a seat. Okay, now we have to suppose we have a fire going here. Yes. It's early morning, so we're making cowboy coffee, right? No marshmallows, not yet. But I'd like to start out, actually, just if you can share with us a little bit about your life. Karen, I realize you stepped into a really important position. Could you chat a little bit about your new position as the head of Enterprise Hispanic Business Strategy and how you got there?
Sure, happy to. And I have to say, I'm thrilled to be here and very grateful for the partnership, Ramiro, with USHCC, and for also all the partners and sister organizations in the room. Monika said it earlier, it really does take all of us. So it is an honor to be here with you all. As Dr. Hayes-Bautista alluded to, I have the privilege of serving as the head of Enterprise Hispanic-Latino Business Strategy at Bank of America. Thank you. And that's a relatively new function and role at the bank. I've been in the seat for about a year. But as many of you know, Bank of America has been committed to the Latino community for many, many years. And we're proud to say that today we serve 15 million Hispanic Latino clients, 1.2 million Hispanic Latino business owners, and 1 in 3 checking accounts opened with us are with Hispanic Latino clients. So we've been at this for many, many years because those numbers don't happen overnight. But what we did last year is we said we need to ensure that we are bringing all of our collective efforts across the company together into one cohesive strategy so that we can better serve the Latino community through all of their needs. Their retail needs, their business needs, their investment needs, their wealth management needs. And in order to do that, we can't continue working in a silo, so we need to bring the enterprise together. And that's what me and my team have the privilege of doing. We've been at it for a year. We've seen tremendous momentum at the company. And again, that's building on what we've already been doing for decades. And we're going to continue because, as we always say, it's a nice start. Those numbers are impressive, but there's ways to go. So thrilled to be here.
All right, thank you very much. Stephanie, Vice President and General Manager of All-In Education, could you share with us a little bit about what you are doing and where your vision is for your group?
Yes, absolutely. Pues buenos días a todos. What an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity to share the stage with all of you. Stephanie Parra, I am actually one of those Latina daughters that you were mentioning. I am a very proud first-generation American. My parents are from Sonora, Mexico. I grew up on Arizona's southern border. My Arizona people, I know you're in here somewhere. And I now have the privilege of leading All-In Education, Arizona Latino Leaders in Education. We go by All-In Ed. We are a young organization. We're just over 4 years old. I started in the height of the pandemic as the founding executive director, now CEO, and we are really committed to making sure that the individuals that are most impacted by inequity in the education system truly have a voice and a seat in decision making. And we predominantly focus, because in Arizona the Latino population is so large, we focus on supporting Latino parents and caregivers. A big portion of our work is called the Parent Educator Academy. And the Parent Educator Academy really is designed to give parents the tools, the skills, the knowledge to navigate the education system so they can advocate for their children. What I learned early on in the pandemic is when we were navigating distance learning, parents, especially in the immigrant community and the Spanish-speaking community, had gone ultimately like 2 months with little to no communication from their schools. By the time I was on the phone talking to them about their child's education, asking them what they needed to support their children's learning, I was the first person that had picked up the phone and called them. And I think, to me, we were, as educators, we were talking about the digital divide and lack of access to technology and Wi-Fi, but the real challenge is the communication divide that exists between schools and families. And so All in Ed is really working to bridge that divide and strengthen the relationship between families and educators, ultimately in the interest of improving student outcomes and student
Amazing.
achievement.
Okay. Karen, for you. $3.7 trillion. The world's 5th largest economy. Bigger than India, growing faster than China, and within that, as we saw, Latinas pushing this ahead, the rest of us following in her footsteps. What does this mean for Bank of America's strategy?
Sure. So it means a few things. We have to continue to invest in Latinas, right? The investment has to continue in order to unlock our full potential. So we know Latinas are starting businesses faster than any other segment, right? The data tells us that 6 times faster. We know that they account for a significant portion of the Latino businesses out there, but yet they're still struggling, right? With revenue, with profitability, and we see this in the data, and so we double down on that, right? What we like to do is understand what are the challenges, what are the impacts, how can we help? So every year, one of the things Bank of America does is we actually survey Hispanic-Latino business owners every single year to get their perspectives, to understand their challenges, to understand their needs. And what the data tells us every year, 2 main challenges that we hear: access to capital and access to education and resources. So what are we doing about that? Just as an example on the capital piece, because we all know how important that is, one of the things that Bank of America has done is we've committed over $550 million in equity investments to 160 funds that are in turn investing in diverse entrepreneurs. Now, of those investments, about 22% are Hispanic-Latino-led funds. But even more exciting, given the conversation, is that 70% of those Latino funds are Latina-led. And that's important, right? Because we know that women are twice as likely to fund female founders than their male counterparts. So who's writing the check is also very important. Now, those investments, they are funding 1,400 companies, and they are employing 28,000 people in the communities that those businesses are operating in. That's tremendous impact. And that's just the start.
Only the beginning, folks, only the beginning. Okay, Stephanie, likewise, $3.7 trillion, bigger than India, faster than China. What are the unique challenges of Latina leadership for this world's 5th economy?
Yeah, I think, in reflecting on that question, I really think a lot about the incredible obstacles and challenges that we face as a community. Systemic barriers to opportunity, both whether it is access to capital or access to education, right? There are barriers in our ability to attain and both educational attainment and economic mobility. And I think that we still rise above. And that speaks to who we are as a community. It speaks to our ability to be resilient, to persevere against all odds. And in the height of some of our greatest challenges, and in the report, you guys talk about the impact of COVID and how that set our community back, but we actually saw Latinas rise. And that's just another example of who we are and really our resilience and our perseverance. We do not shy away from a challenge. We say, bring it on, let's go,
Excellent. Okay, this is a world first occasion here. When we were asked to do the women's GDP, Matthew and I went through the literature to see, well, we've never heard of it. Has anyone else ever done it? And it turns out no one in the world has ever done a GDP for a female population. So this is a first in the planet. So Matthew, if you can just briefly, what were some of the challenges that you faced as we thought, oh, this has never been done before, but it's got to be done?
So thank you, David. So one real important point is I want to take a moment and just again thank Bank of America. So David and I have been involved in this research for 7 years. This started as a series of annual US reports, and it was in about 2021 that Bank of America came to us and said, we're just scratching the surface, there's so much more work to be done. And they've subsequently commissioned 20 separate full-length Latino GDP reports focusing on states, targeted states focusing on major metropolitan areas in the United States, and now with the inaugural Latina GDP report. So it's just incredible to have a partner in Bank of America that has the vision to keep pushing us to do more, to take on bigger challenges. Now, as far as the data goes, one of the really important things to understand about this is that this is built on the architecture of the Latino GDP calculation that we've been doing for 7 years. And that's a very detailed bottom-up construction. We're documenting economic activity across 71 different industry sectors, 70 categories of expenditures. This is a detailed, very, very detailed bottom-up construction. We combine BEA data with Bureau of Labor Statistics and Census Bureau, and that's the piece I want to highlight just briefly, which is that we're trying to produce a bulletproof calculation where we can say, here are the government data programs, here's how we arrived at this calculation, so that we can submit that to our peers and really stand behind the numbers. But by relying on Census Bureau data, it actually means that as we're building this factual view of the large and rapidly growing contribution of Latinos living in the United States, we're only counting as Latino, or in this case, Latina economic activity, the data of someone who checks the box Hispanic on a Census Bureau survey. We know that Latinos are systematically undersampled in the decennial census. And so that's to say, when you hear these incredible numbers, you see the extraordinary premiums, the tremendous growth of the Latina GDP. When you see the evidence that Latinos are drivers of economic vitality that benefits all people, we actually know that we're underestimating that. The impact that we see is at least this great, right? And so that's actually what's really exciting, right? These numbers are unbelievable, but the reality that we see in our own communities every single day is even greater.
All right. Well, we're starting to run out of time, so a quick wind up. Stephanie, in 1 minute, what would you say to the young Latino entrepreneurs in the audience?
I would say don't shy away from a challenge. I think that the work that you all are doing is incredible, and you're creating opportunity. I think that we as a community, Latinas, what we do is we build, we create, and we remove the barriers that we have faced. And I think the biggest thing that we can bring to our community is that lived experience and that perspective. And that is why our organizations that we are building actually have incredible impact, because we're building them off of our own challenges and removing those challenges for those that come behind us.
Thank you. Karen, 1 minute, what would you like the young Latina entrepreneurs to take away about Bank of America's commitment to growing the Latina GDP?
I just want to build on what Stephanie said, but when you asked the question, one thing came to mind, and it's sí se puede. Sí se puede. We can do it. You can do it. As Stephanie said, despite the challenges, despite the obstacles, we continue to rise, we continue to build. We're going to continue to build the companies. We're going to continue to hire. We're going to continue to create goods. we're going to continue to help the US economy thrive. And Bank of America and many of the partners here in the room are here to help you do it. And having that banking relationship is crucial. So if you don't already have it, they can guide you through the process, all of it, the day-to-day, the resources are out there. I encourage you to reach out. We are here to help you alongside that journey, from startup until, I mean, we always say 50 million, but greater than that, because we know that our companies are gonna continue to grow, they're gonna continue to scale, and we are here for all of you.
Wow, it takes me back to the olden days, the old Chicano days, si se puede. I mean, imagine. 65 million Latinos on this planet, created $3.7 trillion, 5th largest economy in the world, bigger than India, faster than China. Latinas driving that even further out as we then continue in their footsteps. Si se puede, ¿no? Si se puede, si se puede, si se puede. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you to our distinguished panelists for the dynamic conversation. At this time, we ask that you please direct your attention to the screens for a brief video from our platinum sponsor at PepsiCo.
They might be called Hispanic small businesses, but there's nothing small about them. And at PepsiCo, there's nothing small about our commitment to small businesses, because there's nothing small about their commitment to their community, to become an extension of its voice and their desire to move forward. For their familia, for their gente. With funds, grants, and coaching, we stand by their side every step of the way. Porque juntos crecemos.
Esteemed guests, please join me in welcoming our next featured speaker. With over 20 years of expertise in consumer marketing and leadership, she has played a pivotal role in shaping PepsiCo's success within the Hispanic market, leading with innovation and vision. Let's give a warm round of applause for the Vice President and General Manager of the Hispanic Business Unit at PepsiCo, Ms. Esperanza Teasdale.
Buenos dias. I am deeply honored to be here this morning. On behalf of our Chairman and CEO, Ramon LaGuarta, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, its incredible staff, the Board of Directors, Chair Nelson Reineri, and CEO Ramiro Cavazos for hosting this empowering conference. As the daughter of Pablo and Esperanza Escobar, no relation, who were Ecuadorian and Colombian immigrants, I promise, no relation, I witnessed their pursuit of the American dream through the perseverance and resilience of my parents. They were what we call essential workers, who worked in factories, punching in and out to get paid, and they didn't have the option of working from home. And while I didn't have everything, I had everything. Their dream was that I would have an easier life than they did without the daily challenges they faced, and education was the unlock to the progress. And because of their sacrifices, I became a first-generation college graduate, earning both a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and an MBA. Thank you. I am also the first in my family to hold a position in corporate America, and the values my parents instilled in me, you'll recognize them. Hard work, dedication, and the desire to give back have shaped not only who I am as a leader, but also my commitment to creating environments where others, especially underrepresented communities, can thrive. These values have shown up throughout my career, which hasn't always been linear. I began my journey as an engineer, decided to get my MBA while working full-time, and this was really pivotal because I started to have a passion for marketing, but I was rejected by many senior leaders and really told that I could not be successful in what I wanted to pursue. But with the support of great allies and determination, I'm achieving my goals. When I received the opportunity to lead PepsiCo's Hispanic Business Unit, a dedicated team focused on the US Hispanic market, which in terms of GDP, you all know, is number 5, I knew this would be life-changing. The truth was, I was losing my culture after my parents had both passed away, and being on this team gave me back my opportunity to drive cultural relevance, build brands, and uplift the community. It was a career milestone that changed my life. I listen to more Spanish music, cook my mom's food, a lot more now. And at PepsiCo, we understand that Hispanic and multicultural consumers will continue to fuel the economy. With a GDP of $3.6 trillion, you know all the facts. It is a business case. We recognize and embrace the influence and all the facets of the mainstream, including music, arts, sports, business, and more. And that's why we're committed to initiatives like PepsiCo Juntos Crecemos, which is a multi-year commitment aimed to support short and long-term Hispanic food and beverage small businesses, such as restaurants, cornerstones like the bodegas and carnicerias. And by supporting these businesses, we're not just helping them grow and expand, we're investing in the very essence of the community. Every thriving restaurant, every bustling bodega, every well-stocked carniceria represents jobs created, dreams realized, and traditions kept alive. And for years, Hispanic entrepreneurs have been drivers of the economy, and the Latinas are leading the charge, right? Every year, las jefas, any jefas in the room? Lady bosses, in case you don't know, pump $1.3 trillion into the US economy. Think about that. And it's not just a number. It's a testament to the hard work, the innovation, and entrepreneurial spirit. And in fact, we know Latinas are creating businesses at 6 times the rate of other segments. Yet, despite that, they still face a lot of challenges that hinder their visibility and their growth. So, to help address that, we created a platform called Jefa Owned, and this year we launched the 3rd year in partnership with the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And that partnership is to help elevate and empower the Latinas across the country. So with the support of new friends like Cynthia Jaramillo, Christian Tiapa, Jessie Acuña, Evelyn Barahona, we were able to amplify the Jefa voices across the country, providing them with resources that they need to grow their businesses and thrive. So the USHCC not only supported our vision, but they became integral to this realization. So thank you on behalf of our company for this wonderful partnership and the support of your local chapters. It's just the beginning. But the potential of the Latinas is untapped. 30 million strong, vibrant and young, we live longer, and rapidly growing. Our influence extends every sector, politics, all culture, and we continue to climb that ladder of success. And it's our responsibility to reach back down to pull others up. So whether you're a small business owner, or a corporate executive, or a community leader, you have the power to open doors for others. Because our success isn't just about our personal achievement, it can't be. It's about creating pathways for the next generation of Latina leaders. When you grow your business, when you raise your voice, when you claim your seat at your table, you're not just advancing your own career, you're advancing the entire community. Everyone's watching. And as you reflect on your family's journey, it is our job to recognize all the sacrifices that they did and give it all back. So I challenge us today, let's embrace that superpower. Somos Latinos. Let's transform boardrooms and reshape businesses. Let's take a seat at every table. Let's elevate each other because individually we're strong, but together we are unstoppable. Gracias, and que Dios los bendiga.
Thank you, Ms. Teasdale, for sharing your expertise and experience with our members and guests. Colleagues, please welcome to the stage for closing remarks the Senior Vice President of the USHCC Educational Fund, Ms. Evelyn Barahona.
Good morning, everyone. I have a quick question for you. Who's feeling like a champion and ready for action to drive transformational change? Anyone? What a wonderful and powerful session. And I want to take this moment to express Deep gratitude and appreciation to our partner, collaborator, co-chair for today's session and the conference, Bank of America. Give them a round of applause. Angie, Brittany, Becky, Karen, Raul, and Carolyn, thank you for being such thoughtful partners in elevating the mission of utilizing your platform to be intentional in celebrating the community's assets that exist within Latinas, and that includes our digital series, In Her Footsteps. Today you had an opportunity to meet one of them, Stephanie, and I urge you to come to our booth and meet the 9 others. So thank you so much. And to Dr. Bautista Hayes, thank you for your unwavering vision to bring data and research to demonstrate the incredible assets and the power that reside in the Latino community that many of us see on a daily basis. And this report is able to convey for us with specific numbers that Latinas and Latinos are key drivers to the economic prosperity of this country. And for that, we are super grateful. Dr. Fienup, I'm very appreciative of the story that you shared with us earlier this week, that after you did your Latino GDP report, to that one entrepreneur that stood up to you and asked, what about Latinas? And here we are talking about Latina GDP, $1.3 trillion. Thank you. Thank you for that vision. And today you had a chance to hear from Stephanie Parra, who we've had the pleasure to get to know over the last year. And for her, she is an inspirational leader that embodies what it is to be a community asset, and not only that, to spotlight what the youth has for us. And for her, I'm really grateful because those are the type of people that we are looking to uplift because they're doing the work for us and bringing the next generation to the forefront. And Esperanza, who you just last heard, also known as Espi to loved ones, she has been a great partner. We had the opportunity to do Juntos Crecemos in amplifying Latinas across the country, and I suspect that we have more to do, but it is great to call you a collaborator, friend, and partner, and we look forward to doing more work. So with that said, we have a special announcement to share with you today. As part of our commitment to amplify Latina entrepreneurs on their growth trajectory, USHCC will be launching its first Latina Entrepreneur Growth Program that focuses on businesses with $10 million and more of revenue this fall. The delivery of this program will be done in partnership with WeBank, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and a leader in women's business development and the largest certifier for women-owned businesses and value partner at USHCC. Together, we will deliver the first of its kind mid-market growth program inspired by their excellence program to take Latinas to the next level. So we are looking to do from 10 million and driving them to 100 million and potentially $1 billion. And so we're really grateful to our funder who challenged us, and that is the Kroger Foundation, for their commitment to our mission in accelerating the prosperity of Hispanic businesses, and really their unwavering support for us to launch this program together. So with that said, we look forward to seeing you in this room during lunchtime, and we encourage you to check out our other sessions with our incredible speakers that include Grow with Google, industry sessions at the Supplier Marketplace, and Getting Fancy at the Gala. Thank you for your presence, and as we heard from Karen and others say, si se puedo, and let's build together. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.